couple of weeks, but I'm so happy that I'm going to do this today. And it's going to be very short and succinct and very valuable, I hope, because the topic that I want to talk about is what to do when you are accused of harassment in workplace. I have been coaching one of my clients on this recently, and the experience that she's having is where she feels like she's very sad about it. And when I asked why she's sad about it, she was saying that it's because she feels like she's a total failure and she does not feel like she's a good manager, even though from previous coaching that we've been doing, that she has amazing results with her other team members. So therefore, she just feels like very discouraged and she doesn't feel any support from her management, and therefore she feels like she's left alone. And at the same time, she has this feeling of maybe she needs to go and talk to that person who is accusing her of harassment, and she feels like that person who is accusing her, that person is actually harassing her by bad mouthing her in other places. So this is what the situation is with that harassment, right? And I have been through this harassment where I was accused as well, and I have coached several other clients on this as well. And it's very, very natural, it seems, for our brains to react this way when other people come and accuse us, whether it's formal accusation or whether it's informal accusation. This type of reaction where we get to either blaming the other person or blaming ourselves or blaming the system or blaming other superiors in the management team who we feel like is not supporting. So this seems like a very common reaction that we go to. Now, this is what I would like for you to think about if you're going through this, is first to recognize that this is very hard thing to go through, and be very gentle on yourself and be compassionate with yourself. That's like the first thing that I need to highlight. The second thing is, think about if you are so much in the self blame of I'm not a failure, I'm not a good manager, I must have done something wrong, what have I done wrong? If you're in this space, also think about how that is not useful no matter how many times you try to blame yourself. Think about what is the outcome of those blamings, because the outcome of blaming probably is you feeling even worse than before, right? So imagine if you falling and then someone kicking on you, and that's the same feeling I assume you will have when you keep blaming yourself, keep asking questions without ever answering them. This is not a useful place to be. So that's why once you recognize that this is a very hard thing to go through for any of us, it's a very natural human state where we want to belong, we want to be liked, we want to get along with other people, we don't want to do anything bad for other people usually, right? So therefore, natural to recognize that going through this is very hard, and therefore instead of going into the self blame or blaming others, try to process all of these emotions as much as you can. And the way that I'm saying process is, what it really means is recognizing those feelings, allowing those feelings to be there, going through your body, flushing out those emotions. And then once you go through that, then start thinking about what is it that you actually can do for you to feel safe again. Because a lot of the times this type of scenarios has been going on for some time, and therefore at some point we start, excuse me, we start getting so anxious, or we start getting so worried about situations, or maybe we even are afraid of that person. That was certainly my case, and therefore in those moments we don't feel safe, right? So that's why we need to understand how we can feel safe within our own bodies, within our own environment, before then deciding to do something about it. And when you When you do like recognize these things going through, you also need to recognize as soon as you let go of the self blame, as soon as you let go of the blaming others, that person who is specifically not liking you or hating you or trying to accuse you as much as possible, as soon as you stop the blaming part, then you will have the ability to look at, okay, where have I done something that I shouldn't have, and how can I learn my lesson from it? Where can I do something that I talk to my manager and management team or HR team so that they're aware of it? And also think about how your brain usually wants to react to the situation. In my client situation, she wanted to go and talk to that person who's accusing her to find out why that person hates her. Now, if that is the reaction that you notice from yourself that's happening, then ask yourself how much of that use will be even if you do go and talk to that person. Because my experience is that, at least I want to share, is that I have tried that not only on my own but with so many other people together so that we can solve the problem, but it didn't really go the way that I thought. It got even more complicated than it was before, and therefore my conclusion from my experience at least is talking to the person and trying to get that person like us, or not even like us, but understanding why that person is hating us or accusing us or whatever, may not be an easy or more constructive way of handling things, at least on your own. So therefore, if you want to do that so much, then think about, what do you think will come out of this conversation? What do you want to get out of this conversation? Because if you want to get, I want them to like your conversation, then it's not going to work because you can't make people like us, right? That's it. Like the universal truth is that we can't just make people like, well, now you should like me, and then they just magically go and like us. So therefore, since that's not happening, then what do you want to get out of the conversation, and be very clear with yourself, right? Because as soon as you're clear in terms of, okay, if there is a personal thing going on where the person does not like you as a person, and that there is probably, we can't do anything about it because some people just don't like us. But if there is the work related thing that you want to understand and get something out of it, then be clear and also think about whether you want to do this conversation on your own, or it's best to do it in the presence of someone as a witness if the other person agrees. So there are certain things to think about, right? So that's why, mm, I would love for you to, like, to wrap up, to think about, it's a very difficult situation to go through, so therefore be gentle, compassionate with yourself. B, allow and process a lot of those emotions of fear, or emotion of frustration, or emotions of um, how you feel like you are let down, or all of these emotions you can process through. And then once you process through them, then start looking at how you want to react to this situation, how your brain automatically wants to react, and whether that's a good idea to react that way. You can also like understand for yourself how you feel safe, how you feel comfortable before starting the conversation, or before even starting to react to the situation. And once you start noticing how your brain wants to automatically go and blame, or automatically go to the angry line, or automatically go to um, accusatory line, then notice that that may not really be useful way to handle the situation, simply because when we come with blame of others, or accusation of others, or when we come with um, anger, we are likely to make things a lot worse than before. So therefore, processing that anger, let anger out in your own space without going and getting that anger to someone else, right? So that you are more, um, you are like letting the anger out and flushing yourself and cleaning yourself, so to say, emotionally, but at the same time then feeling a bit calm. And always think about whatever the reaction you make, either you want to talk to that person who's accusing you, or you want to talk to your management or HR person, whoever you want to talk to. Think about what you want to get out of that conversation, and also think about how can you go to a bit feeling empowered, or feeling powerful, maybe is not the word that might be useful in this context, but feeling like in your grounded you, so that you don't go into the defensive, or you don't go into the offensive, right? But rather being in this grounded place to wanting to solve the situation, and how you can do that. And if you feel like it's not possible, then again decide what you're going to do. And I have had people ask me also in such situations if like our immediate reaction might be either offending, or fleeing, or like avoiding and leaving that operation, right? And some of the times maybe that's the last resort of leaving the operation, because we feel like it doesn't really it may not be solved any other way, you feel, or you don't feel safe in that environment even though you tried. Then notice what can be best for you in that moment to taking care of yourself, because in such situations I think our brain takes it as a verbal abuse or verbal violence kind of place, and when we are fearing verbal violence, then it's not easy to feel safe again. It's not easy to have the conversation with that person. And therefore, I think the easier way not to continue this conversation, or not to complicate this conversation, but rather taking our distance and taking care of ourselves first, might be even a better strategy than actually keep trying to hang up on it, or he keep trying to go and get the other person tell us why they don't like us, or whatever it is, because that may not be constructive. So my dears, I hope this was helpful in some ways, and absolutely reach out to me if you're going through this. It's not, as I said, it's not an easy situation to be in, and at the same time I feel like sooner or later as managers we go through such situations, and then how can we use this to not go into immediately blaming ourselves, and therefore diminishing all of our achievements and work that we have done, and not let ourselves blame the whole time, but rather looking at what can we do in that moment, how can we solve this in that moment, and learning this occasion to, or using this occasion to learn how can we be a better manager, how can we take care of ourselves at the same time, be compassionate with ourselves. These are the lessons we can definitely learn from such an environment. So that's why I would love to help you coach through this, process through the emotions if you need it, and also decide how you want to handle it going forward, how you want to handle it if in the future such situations come up. And that's I would love to help you coach on. So let me know. In the meantime, have a beautiful week. Thank you so